Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Bonjour à tous, benvenuti. My name is Christine Sansalone, and I am the host of this event. The AICW is pleased to present the fifth event of the series, Italian-Canadian Literature in Translation, which is part of the Books and Biscotti literary series. Benvenuti a tutti e grazie di essere qui. L'Associazione di Scrittori e Scrittrici Italo-Canadesi è lieta di presentare il secondo evento della serie dedicato alla traduzione della letteratura italo-canadese. I recognize that we are all on different territories at this time, but I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that I am located on unceded Indigenous lands of the Atikamekw, Anishinaabe, and Wanapate First Nations. The Association of Italian Canadian Writers acknowledges them and other nations who care for the land across our country, and we pay our respects to Canada's first storytellers. Today we will listen to Rosetta Rosati, translated by Licia Canton, and Genni Gunn, translation by Margherita Piva, read by Giulia De Gasperi. Each couple of readers will have 20 minutes at their disposal. Feel free to type any comments on the chat. We will give you the opportunity to ask any questions at the end of the event. With no further ado, I'm going to call to the mic Rosetta Rosati and Licia Canton. Rosetta Rosati immigrated to Canada with her family as a child, studied, worked, and married in Montreal. In the late 70s, returned to Italy. Retired after a banking career in Milan, she now lives in Pavia and is co-founder and president of Università della Terza Età, Uni3, Pavia. Her book, Maples and Chestnuts, was published in Canada by Longbridge Books in 2017, while the Italian version, Aceri e Castagne, was published in 2019. A self-translation is a sequence of creative nonfiction stories which recounts her family immigration history spanning 3 generations in Italy and Canada.
Licia Canton's poems and stories have appeared in English, French, Chinese, Italian, and Venetian dialect. She's the author of The Pink House and Other Stories and Almond Wine e Fertility, published in Italy as Vino alle mandorle e fertilità. She's the editor of Here and Now, an anthology of queer Italian-Canadian writing, 2021, and director of the documentary film Creative Spaces, Queer and Italian-Canadian. She was Emilio Goggia Research Fellow in Italian-Canadian Studies at the University of Toronto, Honorary Fellow in Translation and at the University of Hull, UK, and writer-in-residence at the University of Calabria. The founding editor-in-chief of Accenti magazine, Licia Canton is the recipient of the Italy in the World Prize for her work in culture. She is currently president of the Association of Italian-Canadian Writers, ex-president now, and she holds a PhD from University of Montreal and master degree from McGill University. Please, on stage.
Okay, so I will start. My book, first of all, thank you, Christine, and thank you, Maria Pia, and hello to all the friends connected. Thank you for being here. My book, Maples and Chestnuts, contains 7 short stories. All have to do with immigration, my family's immigration, and the many feelings that each departure and arrival brings. The main story of the book, titled Passenger Number 12, is a memoir of my maternal grandparents' immigration to Canada in the early 1900s. And the return in Italy in 1924 of my grandmother with her 5 children, including my mother, all born in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. From Passenger Number 12, I will read the Italian self-translation of the chapter titled Concetta, my grandmother, while Licia Canton, that I thank warmly, will read the English text. So I think we should read first the English, then I will follow with the Italian translation. Licia, thank you.
Thank you, Rosetta. So these are Rosetta's words. I'm only reading them. Concetta was only 23 in 1911 when she left her hometown to join her husband in Canada. Illiterate and totally unaware of what lay ahead, she endured the long ocean crossing alone to pursue her destiny. Melancholy and fear of the unknown must have been her companions during her long journey. How much did her fragility and illiteracy weigh on her as she lay in bed seasick in her third-class berth? What thoughts would have crossed the mind of this young village girl who for the first time had left her family and home for a faraway place? Doubts and uncertainties must have assailed her. Would her husband, Giacomo, be waiting for her on arrival? Would her looks meet his expectations? Was he too old for her? A 9-year difference seemed like a lifetime. She recalled how he had looked at her the day he left Cicala. She was among those who had gone to the piazza to see those who were departing. 4 young men, dressed in their best clothes, were surrounded by a group of men and women, weeping, embracing, kissing. Addio, Giacomi, mi raccomando, buon viaggio. Giacomo saw her. Their eyes met. In what seemed like no time at all, a home, their home, was waiting for her in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Concetta struggled to leave behind all her frailties. She opened her mind to new horizons. She fought against her biggest enemy, her illiteracy. She repeated English words as her children would teach her. Good morning. How are you? My name is Concetta. I come from Italy. Certainly, Concetta was an intelligent girl. What she had achieved so far was proof. Although she had missed out on formal schooling, she was open-minded and reflective. Her reflective nature most probably contributed to augmenting her anguish, along with the fact that she could not count on the protective familiarity of her environment in Italy. Nor could she count on her parents and sisters to aid her in bringing up her numerous children. Imperceptibly, her everyday life became too much for her to cope with. Non ce la faccio, she said to Giacomo one day. I feel so tired and weak. The doctor told me they could be twins, sighed Concetta. Giacomo, joking and trying to reassure her, said, Concè, c'è mangiare per tutti 5. The twins, a boy and a girl, were born on June 21st, 1921. Lancilotto, more fragile, did not survive, while Isotta grew up strong and healthy. The family continued to grow. 2 years later, on a cold January day in 1923, Clementina was the last to be born on Canadian soil. The responsibility of motherhood, poor health, and the absence of family created an enormous burden for Concetta. She now longed for Cicala, her adolescent years, and the support of her older sister Giuseppina. Concetta soon realized that the weakness of her body was affecting her state of mind, and this, like a vicious circle, increased the suffering for her and her family. Concetta, come stai oggi? Come on, smile, were words that her husband pronounced daily. Ma, play with me, implored Tristano. No, not today, was always the mother's response to her children. Mr. Talarico, your wife's general health is good, the doctor had said. Her low spirits and frailty are the result of a deep depression. Medicine doesn't seem to be working. Maybe returning to her homeland could be her best cure. The doctor's prescription had been very clear. For the family, it was thunder on a sunny day. I bambini, what will happen to my children? Was Concetta's main worry. She feared the outcome of the change. They were happy and healthy. They had seen the light in comfort and ease, and they completely ignored what it was like to eat only a piece of bread and cheese, to only have meat on special occasions, to rely on whatever food a small patch of earth had to offer. Such change would only be medicine for her. In looking back at her adolescent years, she remembered her family's simple way of living, how the most ordinary events would become for them the reason for a joyful feast, a dinner of dry beans cooked in clay pots over the fireplace, pieces of grilled sheep's meat, cornbread, dried figs, and roasted chestnuts for dessert. She recalled what it was like to not wish for more. Concetta's withdrawn character left no room for further analysis. Her situation, her most intimate thoughts and feelings in making such a decision, had changed the lives of her family forever. But these thoughts belonged to her and her alone.
Thank you. Thank you, Licia. Concetta aveva solo 23 anni nel 1911 quando lasciò la sua casa di Cicala per raggiungere il suo nuovo marito in Canada. Analfabeta e completamente ignara di quello che sarebbe stato il suo futuro, si mise in viaggio, attraversando l'oceano per andare incontro al suo destino. Di sicuro la malinconia e la paura dell'ignoto le sono state vicine durante tutto il suo lungo viaggio. Ma quanto le pesarono quella fragilità e l'analfabetismo mentre giaceva sdraiata sul suo letto di terza classe in preda al mal di mare? Quali pensieri attraversavano la mente di questa giovane donna di paese che per la prima volta lasciava il porto sicuro della sua famiglia e della sua casa alla volta di luoghi sconosciuti e tanto lontani? Dubbi e incognite affollavano la sua mente. Suo marito Giacomo sarebbe stato lì ad aspettarla al suo arrivo? Avrebbe fatto colpo su di lui? 9 anni di differenza d'età erano tanti. Era forse vecchio per lei? O era lei troppo vecchia per lui? Ricordava bene lo sguardo che le aveva dato il giorno della partenza da Cicala. Lei era tra le ragazze accorse in piazza per vedere quelli che partivano. 4 giovani ragazzi con il vestito della festa, circondati da gruppi di uomini e donne. Piangevano, si abbracciavano, si baciavano. Addio Giacomì, mi raccomando, buon viaggio. Giacomo la vide. I loro occhi si incrociarono giusto per qualche istante. Una casa, la loro casa, la stava aspettando su St. Marie in Ontario. Concetta si sforzava di nascondere le sue debolezze. Cercò di aprire la propria mente a nuovi orizzonti che l'avrebbero attesa. Lottò contro il suo più crudele nemico, l'analfabetismo. Cominciò pian piano a ripetere le parole in inglese che gli insegnavano i suoi figli. Good morning, how are you? My name is Concetta. I come from Italy. Concetta era una donna intelligente. I risultati che aveva sinora raggiunto ne erano una prova. Benché priva di una formazione scolastica, aveva dimostrato grande apertura mentale, era una donna riflessiva, attenta e sensibile. Fu probabilmente questa sua sensibilità ad alimentare un certo senso di angoscia per ciò che le stava accadendo. La fatica nella gestione dei numerosi figli piccoli, senza poter contare sull'appoggio protettivo della sua famiglia, la nostalgia per i suoi genitori e per le sorelle lasciate in Italia stavano rendendo la sua vita di tutti i giorni insostenibile. Non ce la faccio più, disse un giorno a Giacomo. Mi sento così stanca e debole. Il dottore mi ha detto che potrebbero essere gemelli, annunciò Concetta con un sospiro. Giacomo, con i suoi modi scherzosi, cercando di rassicurarla, le rispose in dialetto cicalese: Concè, c'è magari mangiari per tutti e 5. C'è cibo a sufficienza per tutti. I gemelli, un maschio e una femmina, nacquero il 21 giugno 1921. L'ancilotto, il più fragile, sopravvisse solo fino all'età di 6 mesi, mentre Isotta crebbe forte e in buona salute. La famiglia continuò a crescere. 2 anni dopo, in un freddo giorno di gennaio del 1923, nacque Clementina, l'ultima a vedere la luce in terra canadese. Concetta sentì ora più che mai il fardello di essere mamma. Le sue cattive condizioni di salute, insieme alla solitudine che sentiva crescere in lei, la turbavano sempre di più. Le mancava Cicala, la sua adolescenza spezzata, il supporto di sua sorella maggiore Giuseppina. Concetta capì che la fragilità del suo corpo stava pian piano intaccando anche il suo stato mentale e coinvolgendo l'intera famiglia in una spirale di sofferenza. Ma gioca con me, la implorava Tristano. No, non oggi, era sempre la risposta che la mamma dava ai suoi bambini. Signor Tallarico, le condizioni generali di salute di sua moglie sono buone. Era stato il primo verdetto del dottore. Il suo stato d'animo però e la sua debolezza sono il risultato di una forte depressione che la sta assalendo. Purtroppo le medicine che le ho dato non stanno funzionando. Forse un ritorno nella sua terra natia potrebbe essere la cura migliore. Le ultime parole del dottore erano state molto chiare, ma per la famiglia furono come un fulmine a ciel sereno. I bambini, cosa succederà ai miei bambini? Era questa la preoccupazione principale di Concetta. Temeva gli effetti del cambiamento che avrebbe dovuto effettuare. Qui erano felici e in buona salute, venuti alla luce in un mondo privo di ostacoli, ignorando totalmente cosa potesse significare avere da mangiare solo un pezzo di pane e formaggio, mangiare la carne solo in occasioni speciali, insieme a quello che la terra di un orto potesse offrire. Il cambiamento suggerito dal dottore sarebbe stata una medicina esclusivamente per lei. Riportò alla sua mente gli anni adolescenziali, il modo di vivere frugale della sua famiglia e come eventi di ordinaria amministrazione diventassero per loro un'occasione di festa gioiosa. Una cena a base di fagioli cotti nel camino con la tradizionale pignata, la carne di pecora alla griglia, il pane di mais, i fichi secchi e le castagne arrostite per dessert. Ricordò cosa aveva provato in quelle occasioni e le parve di non desiderare altro. Il carattere chiuso di Concetta non lasciò spazio ad ulteriori analisi della situazione. Nulla si seppe su quali fossero state le più intime riflessioni e i sentimenti che dovette provare nel prendere la decisione che avrebbe sconvolto per sempre la vita della sua famiglia. Questi pensieri rimasero racchiusi solo in lei. Thank you.
Grazie, Rosetta. And now we move on to our second reader and translator.
Can I ask a?
We will have the question period at the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So our next reader will be Genni Gunn, translated, or the translation will be read by Giulia De Gasperi. Genni Gunn is an author, musician, and translator. She has published 13 books, 3 novels, Solitaria, translated into Italian and Dutch, Tracing Iris, translated into Italian and made into a film, The Riverbank, and Thrice Upon a Time, finalist for the Commonwealth Prize. 3 short story collections, Permanent Tourists, Hungers, and On the Road. 3 poetry collections, The Recent Accidents, Faceless, and Mating in Captivity, and a collection of personal essays, Tracks, Journeys in Time and Place. As well, she has translated from Italian 3 collections of poems by 2 renowned Italian authors, Devour Me Too and Traveling in the Gait of a Fox by Dacia Maraini, and Text Me by Corrado Calabro. Gunn's books have been translated into Italian and Dutch, and her opera libretto Alternate Visions was produced by Chance Libres, music by John Oliver. Her novel Thrice Upon a Time was finalist for the Commonwealth Writers' Prize. She received the General Lambert Poetry Award for Mating in Captivity, the John Glasgow Translation Prize for Devour Me Too, the Premio Internazionale Diego Valeri for Literary Translation for Traveling in the Gait of a Fox, the Giller Prize for her novel Solitaria, and the Relit Award for Permanent Tourists. Her travel essay, Birthstones About Matera, is nominated for Best American Travel Writing in 2021. She lives in Vancouver and is at work on a new novel set in Italy.
Giulia De
Thank you.
Gasperi, Giulia De
ahead.
Gasperi is a literary translator and editor. She curates Collana Canada, which publishes Canadian literary works in Italian translation for an independent Italian publisher. She's a member of the Writers' Union of Canada, the Literary Translation Association of Canada, and the Association of Italian Canadian Writers. Giulia chairs the AICW Britannic Literary Prize Committee. She's currently writing her first collection of trilingual poetry. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess it's me. Do I read first? Yes. I think so.
Yes, Jenny, you can read first or whatever you prefer, the
Yeah.
order.
I think I'm going to read from this, is obviously the translated book. I wonder why I'm not seeing myself in the view.
I can see you.
I'm just looking to see. Oh, okay. Well, I see you, but that's okay. It doesn't matter.
I can see you.
So I see Giulia now.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to, Giulia and I are going to read 3 little sections from the beginning of Tracing Iris, which was published in Canada actually 20 years ago, and then now published in Italy this year in Italian. So, all right. And I think we're going to read the 3 little sections. I'll read the English, she'll read the Italian, then we'll go back and forth with them.
Sounds good.
All right. The first time she saw a dead body, Kate was crossing the bridge into Wenatchee. The man lay on a steep bank, face down, naked, his skin a startling white in the yellow dust. An ambulance was parked on the shoulder and the attendants leaned against it smoking. Kate could hear loud hard rock music coming from the car radio of a couple who, like her, had slowed down for a look. She wondered who the man was and why he was naked. It seemed symbolic somehow, as if he had just been reborn and would at any moment lift his head, put on his clothes, and begin a new life. This made her think of Lethe, the mythological river of oblivion, where before rebirth the dead drink to forget their former lives and sins. Had the dead man purposely thrown himself into this river? She was able to ponder this because the man was unknown to her, and because Kate too was a stranger, a visitor passing through on her way to Pateros, where her new husband waited. She is reminded of the dead man now, 2 years later, as she crosses a different bridge, the interface between her present and her past, which, try as she might, she has not forgotten. She is here in Twisp, Washington, that God-forsaken end of the highway in Wintertown, where her father still lives, because 2 days ago, his second wife, Elaine, fell into the river and drowned. Finally gone. What astounds Kate, who has waited so long for this moment, who spent years of her childhood fantasizing about it, is that she feels nothing. Or perhaps a small twist of guilt, as if she were somehow responsible simply by the act of longing. Dead stepmother. In fairy tales, this is the part where the daughter rises triumphant, freed from wicked spells and evil portions, to be joyously reunited with her father. Of course, they live happily ever after. You must go home, her Aunt Rose said when they heard the news. Your dad has something important to tell you. Home. From Vancouver, a 6-hour drive, Kate's foot reluctant on the gas pedal. Direction, south on I-5, east at Burlington, continue on the North Cascades Highway for 200 miles to Twisp. Bearing, Dad, childhood. Well, here she is. Past the bridge, she stares upstream as if she expects to see Elaine floating belly up towards her. But the river yields only the tumble of water over stones, a sound that transports her to a Mexican beach, the melancholy strings of a guitar, the trickle of a water stick turned end to end. Ray. She hasn't seen her ex-husband for 1.5 years. A familiar chill begins to spread in her chest, in her head, fills all the spaces, suspended animation. From the outside, however, she appears composed, having learned long ago to suppress the ice storm in her veins, or at least the knowledge that it exists. in a way a skier must suppress the awareness that an avalanche could, at any moment, bury her.
La prima volta in cui vide il cadavere di un uomo, Kate stava attraversando il ponte che porta a Wenatchee. L'uomo era disteso sulla sponda ripida, a faccia in giù, nudo, il bianco della pelle che risaltava sulla polvere gialla. Un'ambulanza era parcheggiata sul ciglio della strada. Gli addetti erano in piedi, appoggiati al veicolo e fumavano. Kate sentiva musica rock ad alto volume dall'autoradio di una coppia che, come lei, aveva rallentato per dare un'occhiata. Si chiese chi era l'uomo e perché era nudo. C'era qualcosa di simbolico, come se l'uomo fosse appena rinato e stesse per rialzare la testa, rivestirsi e cominciare una nuova vita. La scena le fece venire in mente l'Ete, il mitico fiume dell'oblio, alle cui acque bevevano i defunti prima di rinascere per dimenticare le vite precedenti e i loro peccati. Chissà se si era gettato nel fiume di proposito. Poteva fare tranquillamente questo tipo di riflessioni perché non sapeva niente di quell'uomo e perché anche lei, Kate, era un'estranea, un'automobilista di passaggio verso Paterus, dove l'aspettava il suo nuovo marito. Quel morto le ritorna in mente ora, a distanza di 2 anni, mentre attraversa un altro ponte. Per lei è l'interfaccia tra il presente ed il passato, quel passato che, nonostante tutti i suoi sforzi, non è riuscita a dimenticare. E adesso è qui, a Twisp, stato di Washington, in questa città fuori dal mondo. D'inverno, l'ultima uscita dell'autostrada, dove suo padre vive tuttora, perché 2 giorni fa la sua seconda moglie, Elaine, è caduta nel fiume ed è annegata. Alla fine se n'è andata. Quello che stupisce Kate, che da tanto tempo aspetta questo momento, dopo anni della sua infanzia passati fantasticandoci sopra, è che non prova niente. O forse senso di colpa, ma solo una fitta leggera, come se lei fosse in qualche modo responsabile per il solo fatto di aver desiderato questa fine. La matrigna morta. Nelle favole questa è la parte in cui la figlia risorge trionfante, libera da perfidi incantesimi e pozioni malefiche per ricongiungersi al padre il giubileo generale. Naturalmente da quel momento vivono felici e contenti. Devi andare a casa, aveva detto sua zia Rose dopo aver sentito la notizia. Tuo padre ha qualcosa di importante da dirti. Casa. Da Vancouver, 6 ore di macchina. Il piede di Kate non spinge sull'acceleratore. Direzione sud sulla I-5, east a Burlington. Continuare sulla North Cascade Highway per 300 km fino a Twisp. Nesso, il padre, l'infanzia. Bene, lei è arrivata, è qui. Superato il ponte, risale la corrente con lo sguardo, come se si aspettasse di vedere Elaine che galleggia a pancia in su verso di lei. Ma dal fiume viene solo il fragore dell'acqua in caduta libera sulle pietre. Un uomo che la trasporta su una spiaggia messicana. Le melanconiche corde di una chitarra, il lento scorrere dell'acqua in un bastone della pioggia che oscilla da un'estremità all'altra. Ray non vede il suo ex marito da 1 anno e mezzo. Una sensazione di freddo, a lei familiare, comincia a diffondersi dentro di lei, riempie tutti gli spazi. La vita si è fermata, sospesa. All'apparenza, tuttavia, Kate è calma e composta, avendo imparato molto tempo fa a reprimere la tempesta di ghiaccio nelle vene, o almeno la cognizione della sua esistenza, proprio come una sciatrice deve reprimere la consapevolezza che, in qualsiasi momento, una valanga potrebbe seppellirla.
Imagine a team of anthropologists hundreds of years in the future, standing here in this eerie rising of stumps, the driveway, the road no longer visible in the thick underbrush. Imagine the town of Twisp vanished. In its place, the valley expands U-shaped like a lazy ginger cat. Gone are the riding stables, the A-frames, the barns. Gone are the bales of hay, the cattle, the green-tilled land. All is an alien landscape, like youth with its treacherous twists and turns. Down the middle of the valley, the Methow River meanders through overgrown orchards and plains, slowly at first, then accelerating in its descent like a rolling avalanche. If the anthropologists were to follow it 40 miles downriver, they would find Pateros, with Kate's ex-husband Ray works from May to October. And there among the orchards would be the scent of apples, the residue of their love. Or you could imagine the same valley transformed with the cancerous growth of high-density condos, every square inch bricked, walled, or concreted into submission. Even the river, perhaps, has been piped and rechanneled. Gone are the orchards, the woods, anything green and alive. Fortunately, the Cascades remain, rising above the valley, too rugged to tame. Every 100 years or so, a flood reminds the inhabitants that once a river flowed here. Whatever the scenario, the future anthropologists squat inside this house. They have dug 20 feet and discovered the vestiges of Kate's family. Ankle bracelet. Gypsy, one anthropologist writes in her journal, vagabond, wanderer, bohemian. The ankle bracelet belongs to Iris. Iris is the missing mother in the story, incidentally. The ankle bracelet belongs to Iris, given to her by Joe when he was still young and passionate. She wore it on the porch those long summer nights, bells jingling with the sound of leaving. Revolver. Circa 1990s, the anthropologist writes, of the type issued to police officers, law-abiding, authoritarian. Cracked porcelain, female child, toy. The pieces form the head of Kate's favorite doll, her straw body and rubber limbs long disintegrated. Heart locket, lover, woman. This one is Elaine's. Crack open the heart, inside packed clay where the faces used to be. And grief too is exhumed. November 24th, the day Iris disappeared, the day Kate has observed each year, sometimes perversely timing her own departures to it. A letter written to Iris when Kate was 10, when she needed a precise reason for her mother's leaving. There they are on the porch, Joe and Kate sitting on the 2 foam cushions on the top steps, both of them in their ski jackets, mittens, and hats. Kate is staring up at the night sky, astonished by the miracle of stars, bewildered by infinity. Her eyelashes and the inside of her nose are crisp, tingly with frost. From a corner of the kitchen window where the curtain has snagged on a chair, a sliver of yellow light escapes onto the steps and beyond, so that the hoarfrost of the trees and the rough planks of the porch sparkle. I don't know exactly why she left, her father says, voice trailing into the dusky air. Kate has been trying to remember the awful thing she did to displease Iris, the thing that made Iris plunk her outside on the porch in snow. Kate never saw her again. Maybe she didn't like me, she says. Maybe I did something. Joe grasps her by the shoulders and looks into her eyes. Your mother loved you, he says slowly, as if speaking in a foreign tongue. It broke her heart to leave you behind. Dear mother, the letter begins, I hate you.
Immaginate un gruppo di antropologi del futuro, fra centinaia di anni, in piedi qui, in questo spazio spettrale, con i ceppi degli alberi che sporgono dal terreno, il vialetto di accesso, la strada non più visibili nel fitto sottobosco. Immaginate la città di Utwisp, scomparsa. Al suo posto si allarga la valle a forma di U. Ricorda un gatto pigro, di pelo fulvo. Sono sparite le scuderie, i tetti spioventi, i fienili, sparite le balle di fieno, il bestiame, il verde della terra coltivata. Tutto è alieno, come la gioventù con i suoi contorcimenti e le curve a tradimento. Giù, in mezzo alla valle, il fiume Methow si snoda tra i frutteti e le praterie invasi dalla vegetazione, prima lentamente, poi scende più veloce, come una valanga che rotola a valle. Seguendo la discesa del fiume per una 60 di chilometri, gli antropologi troverebbero Pateros, dove l'ex marito di Kate lavora da maggio a ottobre. Là, fra i frutteti, c'è il profumo di mele e quello che resta del loro amore. O potreste immaginarvi questa stessa valle trasformata dalla crescita cancerosa di condomini ad alta densità, ogni centimetro quadrato gravato da mattoni, muri o cemento. Persino il fiume, forse, è stato incanalato in tubature e convogliato in altre direzioni. Spariti i frutteti, i boschi, tutto quello che era verde e vivo. Per fortuna rimangono le montagne delle Cascades che torreggiano sulla valle, troppo selvagge per essere addomesticate. Ogni 100 anni, più o meno, un'indottazione ricorda agli abitanti che una volta lì scorreva un fiume. Qualunque sia lo scenario, gli antropologi del futuro sono accovacciati dentro questa casa. Hanno fatto uno scavo di quasi 6 metri e scoperto le vestigia della famiglia di Kate. Bracciali da caviglia, zingara, scrive un'antropologa nel suo taccuino, vagabonda, giramondo, bohemienne. Il bracciale da caviglia appartiene a Iris, che l'aveva dato Joe quando era ancora giovane e appassionato. Lo portava in quelle lunghe sere d'estate sotto il portico, il tintinnio dei campanellini preannunciava la partenza. Pistola, anni 90 circa, scrive l'antropologa, del tipo in dotazione agli ufficiali di polizia, osservante della legge, autoritario. Frammento di porcellana, bambina, giocattolo. I pezzi formano la testa della bambola preferita di Kate, il corpo di paglia e le membra di gomma disintegrati da molto tempo. Medaglione a cuore, innamorata, donna, questo è di Elaine. Aprite il cuore, dentro argilla compatta dove c'erano i ritratti e anche il dolore viene riesumato. 24 novembre, il giorno della scomparsa di Iris, una ricorrenza che Kate osserva ogni anno, qualche volta provando un piacere perverso nel programmare le sue partenze per quel giorno. Una lettera scritta a Iris quando Kate aveva 10 anni, quando aveva bisogno di una ragione precisa per spiegare la partenza della madre. Eccoli lì, sotto il portico, Joe e Kate, seduti sul gradino più alto, su 2 cuscini di gomma piuma. Tutti e 2 indossano giacca a vento, guanti e berretto. Kate fissa il cielo notturno, incantata dal miracolo delle stelle, disorientata dall'infinito. Le ciglia e le narici dentro sono cristallizzate, pizzicano per il gelo. Da un angolo della finestra della cucina, dove la tenda è rimasta impigliata in una sedia, una striscia di luce gialla arriva fino ai gradini e oltre, facendo scintillare la brina sugli alberi e le ruvidi assi del portico. Non so esattamente perché se n'è andata, dice suo padre. La voce si perde nell'oscurità. Kate ha cercato di ricordare quale cosa terribile abbia fatto per dispiacere a Iris, la cosa che ha spinto Iris a lasciarla cadere di peso nella neve fuori sotto il portico. Kate non la vide mai più. Forse non le piacevo, dice. Forse ho fatto qualcosa. Joe la afferra per le spalle e la guarda negli occhi. Tua madre ti voleva bene, dice lentamente, come parlando una lingua straniera. Le si è spezzato il cuore quando ti ha lasciato qui. Cara mamma, così comincia la lettera. Ti odio.
She sits on a hard auditorium chair in the front row beside her father, trying not to stare at the opened coffin, at Elaine's otherworldly greenish gray skin. Instead, she imagines Elaine swimming in Acheron, the river of woe. They're in the only place large enough to accommodate everyone for Elaine's memorial service. Joe has been police chief for 30 years. Everyone knows him and loves him. In public, her father has always acted the extrovert, humorous and courteous. He charms both men and women with his charades. When she lived here and people came to visit, Kate prayed they'd never leave. The Lord is my shepherd, the minister begins. She listens to the fire and brimstone delivery, wondering why fear has to play such a large role in salvation, whether religion is simply afterlife insurance. Was Elaine religious? Or was she like a member of the Order of the Solar Temple, whose deaths were hedonistic and frivolous? Instant tickets to nirvana? Of course, this minister is not suggesting suicide. In fact, he has selected information from the autopsy report and rearranged it more comfortably so that Elaine's death sounds benign. Brave, courageous, a full life, he says. What the autopsy report confirmed is that Elaine drowned after falling from a height against rocks, that she'd had a heart attack, and that she was bruised and cut when they found her wedged between a tree branch and the shore. Kate would like to ask her father what had been wedged between them and when. To evaluate information, you must ask yourself, what is left out? What he left out is, I miss her, I loved her. Kate stands and sits according to convention, flanked by her father and Angie, her friend. She feels foreign, disconnected from the tremulous voices, the red-brimmed eyes, the outpouring of emotions. Her father's back is straight, his eyes clear, his handshake firm. Kate nods to people she hardly remembers, thinking to sustain a family image, the truth must be expended. She is Black Fleece, prodigal daughter, the spiteful offspring who never visits her father, a carbon copy Iris. She concentrates on the candle flickers on the wall, black shapes writhing in and around each other, distorted specters. It's only when the minister closes the lid of the casket that Kate feels a stirring in her chest. In that satin flock box with Elaine lie the past 19 years. All Kate's yearning is futile, her imagined revised past a hologram in the air. Everything she has ever lost comes swimming to the surface. Mother, father, lovers, husbands, friends, jobs, an outpouring she can't control. She is 15 on the porch begging her father to let her stay. She is 22 alone at Christmas while her married lover skis with his family. She is 4 years old, mother gone. She is then now sinking into a gaping pit of black sticky sorrow. The internal pressures of her past smashed together like tectonic plates.
This was our last event of the series. Thank you everyone who followed us and joined these events and enjoying this beautiful sentimental journey through translation and Italian Canadians' works. Over to you, Christine.
Rosetta, show your covers as well.
Yes, there was a message in the chat asking for you to show your covers.
This is mine.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone, readers and friends and family, for joining us today. Thanks to my co-host, Maria Pia Spadafora. This event was brought to you by the Association of Italian Canadian Writers, which is run by a group of volunteers. We welcome donations at any time. Go to AICW.ca to donate and to find out more about our activities. Our next event is going to be on, you should have received a message. It's going to be on November 18th, Friday, November 18th, and it's going to be announcing the Brestani winners. There will be a celebration together with some readings, and it's at 5 p.m. Okay, so it's a virtual event. If you're interested in attending, I believe there was a message that went through our MailChimp system that you should have received. So hopefully you can make it, and hopefully I see you there on the 18th. Okay, so thank you again for joining us, and buon fine settimana a tutti in Italia e negli Stati Uniti.